Civil war in Yemen has become a full regional conflict with global implications. But what on earth is it all about? Joining me in it today to discuss the war are Dr. Elizabeth Kendall and Safa Al-Ahmed. Elizabeth Kendall, what is Yemen?
Yemen is a relatively new invention. It only came together as a whole country in about 1990, and already 4 years later, there was a civil war between the north part of the country and the south.
Yemen used to be North Yemen and South Yemen and so on. The Houthis taken over North Yemen. Has that kind of recreated the divide between the North and the South?
Absolutely. I mean, and the sensitivities between the North and the South, especially when the Houthis tried to take over Aden, which is in South Yemen. And I think that moment of hubris of the Houthis thinking that they could take over the city of Aden and the bloodshed that they committed in Aden was one of those watershed moments where no longer was South Yemen able to consider the northerners part and parcel of the same country. And now there's a de facto two-state.
How did they treat the people in Aden then?
There were massacres, there were human rights violations, and they did this in the summer. Yemen is extremely hot and already very, very, very poor. So you can imagine under the conditions of war and besiegement, the situation was dire. And so the people of Aden will never forget, I think, the attack of the Houthis.
Well, one of the things that strikes me, listening to everything that you've said, is to question really whether or not there's a future for this country at all as a unitary state. Do you think it can be a successful political entity again?
I think in reality right now, a unified Yemen doesn't exist.
I agree with that.
If the Saudi war stopped yesterday, there would still be fighting in Yemen.
I think I've gathered from this discussion, this may be a proxy war involving Saudi Arabia and Iran, but actually the principal players in it are Yemenis themselves. They're the people who are making it happen and the people who can stop it from happening. But the big question is whether or not actually they can do it in the context of maintaining one single Yemen. And there seems to be a little bit of a consensus around the table that actually probably they can't. And we ought to be looking at brokering a deal that might mean the breakup of Yemen.